or figure out by how to get something to work, but don't blind paddle out there. Figure out where you're going to go, because even though it's a 90-mile stretch of islands, you can miss it, and if you miss it, you're screwed. So that's why I have 3 basically directional type setups. Okay. The next thing I've got is very important is my VHF. I have a Standard Horizon, which is probably the best company out there. It's a 2-way, basically call for help. Okay. You can use it to call for help for other boaters, but you can also raise the Coast Guard if you're within range. The thing it's got the weather report built into weather channel, so you can kind of pick up the weather channel to keep an eye on what's going on, which also gives you the current and so forth. The GPS and the walkie-talkie I both keep in a Ziploc bag at the bottom of my waterproof tackle box. I generally don't have it out all the time because I'm only going to use it for emergencies. Both of these two are just last type emergencies, but because of saltwater corrosion, I try to keep these put away and safe as possible. Those headlamp, okay? Yeah, you're fishing throughout the day. Yeah, you're gonna go in the morning and be back by midday or noon. But what happens if you run into troubles out there, okay? And I fish evenings, so it's really important. Usually I fish evenings, and I time it so that I get back to the boat ramp right at sunset. So if I have a problem, I'm coming back in the dark, okay? I have 2 light sources, one of which required, but this one here is really important because it's a headlamp, so I can see what I'm doing, but also that I can flash it straight out of boat if it's coming towards me, or I can use it for as an emergency flasher type thing. But the biggest part of it is that do not get caught out. The worst thing would be caught out in the dark, out somewhere, and having no light. Okay, you're definitely screwed there, because I've never looked up at the stars and been able to figure out where I'm at. So very important there. Another thing I keep in that same dry bag with the walkie-talkie, my backup GPS, and this light. When I go offshore, this is one of those variable ones. This I don't take all the time, but it's basically binoculars. I have a single portable one. I use it when I go offshore because a lot of it deals with finding birds and feeding bait fish for when I'm trolling and targeting that way. But again, this gives me an extra couple miles to be able to find land if I needed to get back, if my 4th backup basically. Here's another light source stash / visibility. I don't know what's going on there. This is by Hook 1. Basically has the light, flag, quick release mount that sits on the bottom there, and it basically gives you a little bit of a platform so that we sit so low in the water, it gives the other boaters a little bit more visibility that, hey, we're there. Especially you start going out where there's anywhere where there's swells. You figure when you're sitting in your kayak, you're at butt to the water, 3 foot, depending on how tall you are. You might have 3 foot sitting upwards, and that's basically it. And then at 3 foot swells, you're invisible. And you got boats running out there that are not really paying attention and looking for kayaks, because we're never really not out there. So that's kind of a very big preventive maintenance safety type things. I would actually prefer a little bit taller, 5 foot maybe, 6 foot would be fine with me. But I happen to get that one there. Very good unit. Okay, next type of setup is how to stay afloat type of things. One, very important, this is kind of the mandatory part of it, is the PDF, your personal floating device. This is the one that's going to save you, okay? Regardless of how good of a swimmer you are, okay? If you're unconscious, you can't swim. And that's what for me, that's the majority of what this PFD is going to save me. I'm a pretty good swimmer or whatnot, but things happen where you get knocked out, or you're whatever sick, or whatever accident that causes it, you end up in the water. You get separated from your kayak way far away. This is the thing that keeps you afloat, okay? At worst, you wear this so that when they can recover your body, and then your family and friends and so forth can have a bit of closure because they recovered your body. At least do it for that part of it about it. And also to kind of keep the sport in check, in that it's a black eye when the news lines are kayak fisherman drowns not wearing PFD. Okay, just makes everybody else look bad. Do what you want, fine, but just don't make us and don't make your family feel bad. On this PDF, I've got a whistle. Another thing visible is with the lights. The whistle gets the sound. Okay, boat's coming, they're not paying attention. You start blowing this thing as loud as you can. I actually have 2 of them on my kayak. The other thing that I've got on this PDF is I have basically a knife. What'll happen is that we run a lot of lines off of the kayak. You have anchor ropes, you've got the little side ropes, you've got the bungees, a lot of things to get tangled up on, and this is what'll you'll cut you free if you happen to get stuck like that. Very important, just wear it. Again, I'm guilty of it when I'm throwing a cast net. I need to take it off because it gets stuck. Yeah, it's impossible to throw the cast net with it on. And most of the time, when I'm throwing it, I'm standing, and if it's real rough waters, I'm not throwing the cast net. So generally pretty calm waters where I'm at doing that. Other times, like I go lobstering, so I'm not wearing it then. So it's not like one of those things 100%. If I'm out just cruising around swimming, it's just common sense stuff. But if I'm offshore, it is on with, when I go offshore, it's 100% on me the whole time. Anytime that I'm using my motor, I'm wearing the life jacket. Okay, I fall out, kayak's gonna go, and it's gonna leave me where I'm at. So at least I'll have something to float on. I have a second, just a standard, basic boat type life jacket. Okay, what I do is I keep this in the front of my kayak stove part. I just leave that in there just in case, adds actual buoyancy, and then also if somebody else gets in trouble. We do have a lot of Cuban refugees coming by, so it doesn't hurt. And as well as, like I said, is that if something happens, having one kayak, one vest is good, but having 2 with you would make it more comfortable when you're floating out there on your way to Cuba. I do test my life jacket. Actually, 2 weeks ago I had to go in the water because I was about 8 miles out, heading out to the wrecks, and I broke the rudder pin on my kayak rudder, meaning I have no directional. Okay, I had to basically jump out, replace the pins, get all situated, and climb back in. Worked great, kept me afloat. I know it works because it kept on kicking my feet up and me on my back. So although it's not the best situation when you're trying to repair something, it does its job, because if you're knocked out or you can't use your arms or whatnot, it keeps your head above water. Doesn't do any good if you're floating face down. So I know that works. Pumper, a pump out, basically. You'll see that in the videos. I have an adventure island where normally the sail would go, so this fits in there very easily. It makes it accessible. Otherwise I'll strap it on the front bungees or have it stowed inside. But this will help. You're offshore, you're the only one there, okay? You start taking on water, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna get the water out? Okay, people will say like, oh, I'll scoop it out, but it just doesn't work depending on the size of the hole you've got and the amount of water that you've got. You've got to get a pump out. These things will actually have the long tube ones, the little floaties there. My kayak, I've got them stuffed, all the spare parts areas I've got them stuffed with these. And this is another California type things that we've done, is it keeps your kayak afloat by taking up the volume within the kayak. So if it does take on water, it's still going to float. I carry a spare backup of paddles. I just have a 2-piece paddle. I just have them broken down. I have the luxury of having multiple types of propulsion. I've got the sail is one. I've got my motor. I have a Hobie, so I have the kayak pedals. I have my standard kayak paddles. So I do have that luxury of having an extra couple. But still, if you are just in a single paddle propulsion kayak only, have a spare, because you lose that paddle, and it's very easy to do, especially if you don't use a leash. What are you going to do? Okay, you think, oh, I'll just go swim out and get it. But what if you're in current, and what if you're going against the wind? Okay, kayaks are basically, they sit up high enough so they grab a lot of wind. There's a lot of surface volume with a kayak, and they sit on top of the water so they glide. And you'll be surprised at how fast a kayak can jam. They can go fast, and to the point where you're not going to swim and catch up to it. So you have a spare set of paddles. Okay, you say screw it, grab these out, put them together, and you paddle back and get your other paddle, and you're okay. Okay, always have the backup. And I think that's kind of about it. A lot of stuff, but like I said, is that my thing is that I don't go with a lot of people. Okay, one of the biggest things you can do is go with a buddy, go with a group, especially when you're first learning. But because of my circumstances, that I go to a lot of places where normal other kayakers aren't going to be able to go to. And to be honest with you, there's not a lot of kayak fishermen down in the Keys. I have to rely on my own abilities, and knowing that I have all these such things and I know how to use them, it's just almost mandatory for me. So with that, that's my gist on safety. Okay, take it where you want to. You're an adult, or hopefully you're an adult, and you understand the dangers of kayaks and the open water and the elements, because if you underestimate it, you're going to be in trouble. So you've been forewarned. Have a good one. Bye.